Well, gamers, we've reached that time of year again. The Oscars are this Sunday, March 2nd, and as is always the case, I'm extremely excited. There are a lot of heavy hitters on the nominees list this year, and fear not, I intend to share my very strong opinions on a lot of them, but there is one movie in particular I'm afraid I feel obligated to talk about before the rest. If you're anywhere near as terminally online as I am, then you've probably seen at least one clip from Emilia Perez, the Best Picture nominee that has spent the entirety of award season being celebrated by small groups of critics and filmmakers, and getting absolutely dunked on by the online movie-going public at large. Specifically, you've probably seen this clip.
Man to woman.
From penis to vagina.
Normally, I'm pretty quick to defend critics from people who say they're out of touch for liking weird, quirky movies that no one sees but have a lot of value as pieces of art, but it is to my utter chagrin that this is simply not the case for Emilia Perez. It is truly, holistically, and unrelentingly bad. But why? And how? As my friends will tell you, I have a tendency to be a contrarian by nature. People making fun of the Wonka musical, my favorite movie of 2023. Korra getting shit on relentlessly by vocal fans of the original series. I prefer Legend of Korra. My favorite of the new Star Wars movies is The Last Jedi. My point being, when people are extremely critical of a piece of media, I tend to be drawn to it, and often end up falling in love with it. I genuinely thought that might be the situation going into Emilia Perez. On paper, it seems like a movie made for me. It's not only a musical, it's a movie musical, a trans movie musical, with crime thriller elements and a bunch of elaborate dance numbers. Truly, a ton of things I would normally love. Every element of Emilia Perez seems like it was crafted in a lab specifically to appeal to me, Will, and yet, it's just as bad as people on Twitter say it is. The problems with this movie are so shockingly easy to diagnose. It's bonkers to me that they weren't pointed out and fixed during the first draft of this dumpster fire. The primary problem that Emilia Perez runs into is that the music sucks. It's a simple problem, but admittedly pretty foundational to the success of a musical. 2 of the songs are nominated for Best Original Song this year, which is fascinating because not a single one of them is memorable. They all start the exact same way, with atonal mumbling in the middle of a conversation, the very slight rhythmic cadence of which is the only sign that a song is even started. They build to nothing, have practically no identifiable hooks, and commit the worst crime a song from a musical can commit. They're forgettable. No musical can succeed with dog shit music, you might think. But apparently a complete dearth of good songs is not enough to discourage the Academy from showering your terrible movie with Oscar nominations. The obvious point of criticism is the stereotypical portrayal of various groups during the telling of the story. The director has been famously dismissive of the need to conduct any research into cultures he's unaware of, and he has rightfully received a lot of flack for this. It's not my place to speak to whether the stereotypes in Emilia Perez are specifically offensive to the trans or Mexican diaspora communities, but criticisms of that nature are extremely easy to find and are very compelling, and they're very worthwhile to read if you feel so inclined. Of course, the lead actress of the film, Carla Sofia Gascon, who is naturally nominated for Best Actress, is not helping matters with her history of extremely harmful public statements, but that feels almost secondary to the real problem at hand. I don't dislike this movie because it offends me and other people whose opinions I value. I dislike it because it sucks. I'm not just a woke lefty whose feelings get hurt easily, even though obviously that's the case if you've seen my YouTube channel. It's just a bad movie. It wastes the undoubted talent and genuinely solid performance of Zoe Saldana on a movie where the other actors are nowhere near her level. Not only that, it has the audacity to suggest that she is the supporting actress in the film when she carries the entire movie on her back for the entirety of its 2-hour runtime. Genuinely, she has more screen time than Carla Sofia Gascon, and despite the main character having the same name as the movie, I can't think of any reason why she would get the Best Actress nod over Zoe Saldana. All of this, the offensive writing, the terrible, terrible music, the wasted brilliant performance, combined with some of the most nonsensical editing I've ever seen in a Best Picture nominee. This movie is nominated for Best Editing, and if it wins, we're going to be talking about it as a disaster on par with Bohemian Rhapsody winning for Best Editing. Bohemian Rhapsody, obviously, is a far superior film, and the music is helped a lot by it just being Queen music, but the editing in that movie is entirely based around the fact that the members of Queen all wanted equal screen time, rather than any artistic motivation. But there's no reason like that for why Emilia Perez is put together like this. It feels like in the middle of every other scene, there's some random single focus shot that just fades to black, pauses for 2 seconds, and then it goes on to another scene. I don't know that I've ever seen a movie that's put together like this, and I just don't understand what they're going for. These aren't stylistic choices as much as they are bad choices. And it adds a whole additional layer of failure to a movie that is already pretty well stocked in the failure department. Of course, because I know nothing, Emilia Perez will probably go on to win Best Editing. Now that my rant about this movie that made me genuinely angry is finally over, I'm going to talk about the rest of the Oscars experience, which I'm very stoked about. Despite my annoyance about the nominees, I have a good feeling that the awards will eventually end up where they're supposed to. Last year, I built my ballot around competitive favorites and doing research and comparing different articles about the favorites for who would win what category, and I still got my ass handed to me in my family competition. So, this year, I'm ignoring most of that, and I'm just picking based on vibes. Because of that, Dune and The Substance are my picks for a lot of stuff, not to mention my beloved Nosferatu. Of course, if you've seen my video about Wonka, you know that I picked Timmy to win Best Actor. He may not be the favorite, and Adrian Brody will probably walk away as a very deserving winner on Sunday night, but if Timmy does pull out a win after winning the SAG Award last weekend, and I voted for someone else, I could never forgive myself. I couldn't do that to Timmy. Mikey Madison, who I loved in Scream 5 because I'm a horror movie person, will most assuredly win Best Actress, but of course I had to vote for Demi Moore because I love The Substance so much. Honora is one of the 2 Best Picture nominees I haven't seen as of recording the first segment of this video, and I'm sure Mikey Madison is incredibly deserving, but I could never pick anyone other than Demi Moore. The Substance, of course, is the same movie that guarantees I'll lose the Best Original Screenplay category, since everything I've heard points to A Real Pain being the runaway favorite in that category. For those curious, I will have my entire ballot in the description below for some of the categories that I know less about, like documentary and animated short, that kind of thing. I did go with research just because I'm not a big shorts person, but for the most part, my picks are just about which movies I love the most rather than probable winners. In the next clip, I will be wearing different clothes because by then I will have finished watching all the Best Picture nominees and will be ranking them from worst to best, along with some thoughts on each of the movies. Thank you for sitting through the rant part, and hopefully I'll be a lot more positive now that I don't have to talk about Emilia Perez quite as much. I admit defeat. Despite my best efforts, I cannot get a hold of a viewable copy of I'm Still Here. I have tried legally watching it, illegally watching it, trying to go to the theater, and I cannot find it. So, I admit it, I was only able to watch 9 of the 10 Best Picture nominees before the ceremony this year. I am a hack fraud of a movie YouTube person, but I will still give, in order, my ranking of the 9 that I have seen from worst to best, as well as a couple short thoughts with what I thought about them. Obviously, the worst one is Emilia Perez.
To listen is to accept.
I've complained about that enough. Suffice it to say, the music sucks, most of the performances suck, the editing is wild, and it's just not a fun viewing experience. Next up, but again, significantly better, like orders of magnitude, is Wicked.
You're green.
I thought Wicked was very visually impressive, and I love a good movie musical, other than Emilia Perez, fuck me, but it just didn't stick with me as much as I hoped it would. I initially wanted to complain about how it's only half the movie, but my favorite movie this year is only half of a movie as well. So I'll just say, if that's what they need to tell the story, that's fine. Alright, right above that is the Timmy vehicle, A Complete Unknown.
200 people in that room, and each one wants me to be somebody else.
His performance is genuinely transcendent, and he perfectly captures Dylan. The music, too, is also super good, and hearing about how they produced it with on-set recording for all of it, it's genuinely incredible. But as a movie, it's good, not great. And for something nominated for Best Picture, I look for a little bit more, but Timmy's performance is so incredible, and is accompanied by several other very good performances, including especially Edward Norton and Monica Barbaro, both of whom are nominated tonight. But for a Best Picture nominee, good, not great isn't quite enough. Next up is Nickel Boys.
Whoa! That's it, Em. You're doing great.
Which was heart-wrenching and incredible. The first-person perspective that it's shot in takes a while to get used to, especially when it's jumping back and forth between the different characters, but it really does add a lot, as does the third-person perspective during like the closer to present time sequences. The only reason it even falls short is that it's one of my favorite books I've read recently, and it doesn't quite capture the emotional weight of the book through adaptation, but judging on its own merits, it's incredible, but there are a few movies I liked a little bit more. So next is The Brutalist.
Perhaps you can help your husband sound less like he shined shoes for a wage.
It's incredibly made. It's a grand, moving story, and it's so fucking bleak that despite the fact that it's amazing and would totally be deserving if it wins tonight, it can only get so high with how unpleasant it is. Despite the fact that I'm a big movie should be 90 minutes person, the runtime didn't bother me at all. It definitely needed and used all of that time. Right above The Brutalist is Conclave.
Freya sequestered. and they must be shielded from all news that may influence their judgment. You understand?
Which was probably my surprise package of this nominees list. I thought it was going to be extremely boring. I love Ralph Fiennes, obviously, and he's brilliant. I didn't realize how compelling this movie about papal elections would be. There's so much drama and intrigue. It's gorgeous. The music is incredible. I was really, really impressed by Conclave. Apparently, it's past The Brutalist to be one of the favorites, and if it wins, I'd be extremely happy about that. I think it's a great story with incredible performances from the entire cast, not just Ralph Fiennes. In terms of expectation versus delivery, it was by far the biggest overachiever. I didn't think this would be the case, but there are 2 movies above what comes next, and that is The Substance. The Substance is equal parts funny, scary, nasty, and heart-wrenching. Obviously, Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley both do an excellent job, and the body horror makeup effects are out of this world good. Truly, it's one of the biggest joys in my movie-going life to see a horror movie be this celebrated by the Academy. You can tell I recorded the previous segment before I watched Anora, because Anora jumped all the way up to 2nd place in terms of my favorite movies from last year.
3 carrots.
What about 4?
Good lord. Anora was astounding. The way it weaves together this like heartbreaking, miserable story with dark comedy, and obviously Mikey Madison is a fucking tour de force in this movie. If I hadn't already submitted my ballot, I would have had a lot to think about between Demi Moore and Mikey Madison. I still gotta hand it to Demi, of course, but Mikey Madison was genuinely astounding. Finally, at the top of my ranking of the Best Picture nominees that I've seen this year, again, I'm Still Here, eludes me to this day, is Dune Part 2. It's the perfect conclusion to an adaptation of an extremely long, epic novel that takes up 800 pages. Every frame of this movie is a piece of art. The performances are incredible. The score, cruelly robbed of an Oscar nomination through the 60% new material rule, probably the best out of any movie this year. And Dune Part 2 launched the Dune obsession that has taken over my life since then. For that alone, it has to make the top of my list. As for I'm Still Here, I'm going to watch it as soon as I can. For all I know, it could be better than any of these. I don't want to discount it. It's just so frustrating how hard it can be to get foreign films here in the United States in a timely manner. It's been out for months in other places, but at least right where I am, I just cannot get a viewing. I can't get a digital copy. It's just beyond my means, apparently. So I'm greatly looking forward to seeing it, and from everything I've heard, if it wins every category it's nominated for tonight, it will be deserving of all of them, but I'll be sure to sneak in my opinion of it during the next video I make. So, hope you guys are as excited for the Oscars as I am. I'm going to be having a little watch along where I ordered a cake wishing Timmy good luck. If he loses, the ceremony will have no meaning to me, but beyond that, it should be a lot of fun. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. It means the world to me. I know I don't make a lot of videos, especially not consistently, but I always have the best time when I get to do it. I hope you have a great day, and here's praying for Timmy.